Good day to you, my friends. There are many teachers on the path, and as you may have experienced, that there are many other teachers who are saying words for people to realize that there is something beyond what they have told them. But in this day, there are a lot of specific individuals who have preached the way of salvation coming from outside. And it's something you can get from the outer words, but inside the words, the intentions inside the words. And I was recently listening to a teaching, and it was about death and the beauty and embracing one's own life into usually a circumstance, an initiation, and sometimes what, as I was receiving from this person, came spontaneously. And this death is something that we believe will kill us. Something that is unstoppable. Something that we have to force ourselves into. Or perhaps the other way around. For some of us, forcing ourselves into it comes along the path where you recognize that there are imperfections that can only be cleared through our choices. Not through rituals, not through studying, not through any other teacher. In the beginning, these can help. But there are circumstances which all of us have to go through at one point or another, in this life or another, where we have to look into what some people would say the unconscious parts of ourselves, where we have not fully realized or simply desire to realize the effects of our choices or our choice, to where perhaps a very uncomfortable circumstance has arisen or will arrive by a mere factor of not being willing to look at this. Welcome, beloveds. Beloveds, welcome. And as I was receiving this teaching of death, it stirred a very strong impulse inside of me to assist in my recognition of when uncomfortability arises, when a dilemma appears to be catastrophic, or whatever. There is a transformation process that may come about by our choice to embrace this death. And this death has many forms, and one of its forms comes in trying to understand what is the lesson, what is the what am I trying to be told? And sometimes we can confuse ourselves, belittle ourselves, and draw ourselves into a ring of fire that will burn us alive. The more we try to understand all the things in which God, in which this world has in store for us, if we allow the process of choosing to be the Christ, choosing to make those decisions, that we will feel rejected upon. Or what have you may, where we feel separated. Because someone does something, reacts in a certain way, or because our reaction to how we think people will react in a certain way. Isn't that funny? I know a lot of times in my life I have consistently desired to help people, help them understand a different perspective of life, and this seeking to help I've drawn into myself, I guess you could say, very intense levels of consciousness where it's a battle, and this battle is always trying to understand the precise word, the precise phrase, the precise teaching, that the entire time and energy that it takes to come up with these various precise actions, you can say, is something that is what I have experienced as overboard. Something that can even dissipate our energy even further, causing us to be more tired, more infatuated with even disease, because there is a fallen or serpentine logic in this world that says if you try to understand duality at a certain level that is beyond intuition, where it becomes analytical, intellectual fanaticism, you can say, you will have the power over the world. You have power over people. You will have supreme power to do whatever you want, to feel what you want. And this is looking past the overview of how our life is being governed by the hierarchy of ascended masters and our I am presence, the higher self, or whatever you want to call it. Because they are making decisions not just through us. They have the ability to make choices independent of what some of us individually choose to have in our life, so we can understand the cause and core of being unattached to whatever happens, to be balanced in whatever happens, not fanatical, not judgmental. And this is a good topic. And this death comes into our lives almost every day, in little increments, or sometimes in massive waves and tsunamis. There is a process of letting go that allows for the hierarchy, that includes your I am higher self, to be able to help connect the dots for you on what would seem like on a passive level. But the decision to let go, the decision to let God, or the decision to not analyze, is a process that, in other words, can be understood as God, I don't know the entirety of the situation, and I know that by me trying to understand it will only dilute it. God, the Ascended Masters, I am presence, you know a higher perspective. I know you will reveal to me as I allow the process of whatever uncomfortability is going on in my life to destroy those things in me that think life should always be happy, life should always be jumping with joy, life should always be a certain way according to my belief system, because my belief system is the ultimate belief system. And there we go in that endless quest of perpetual struggle. And that will turn our lives into a very uncomfortable pattern, to whereby it may delay some events from taking place in us sooner rather than quicker, but in the end, time doesn't matter. What matters is that we get back up on our feet, we try again, without perpetuating judgment, self-pity, and victimhood upon each other. That is an important level of consciousness that I think we all are capable of reaching. For those of you who are listening right now, mark in your unconsciousness right now, identify right now something in which is a consistent fear. Just let it be known, just briefly, something that comes up throughout your day or sometimes throughout your week, just briefly. As I also do this right now, take my hand with me and allowing ourselves to let this fear obliterate all our understandings about the fear. We're trying to understand the fear. Let it just obliterate us to the point where we only allow for the intuitive experience of God or the ascended consciousness to give us, by our surrender, the perspective that will allow itself to come through us when we allow that we don't have the highest perspective. That yes, we may be able to have the analytical comprehension to make a decision that transforms this fear or completely dissolves the fear. That's a lot of ants on my water bottle. Oh, they're in the water now. I'm gonna have to get new water soon. Well, they can drink up. I may have to get some water here. That was a lot of ants. But, before I get too carried away here, I would like to say, how do you feel? How do you feel when you allow, right now, yourself, the fear to destroy you, to destroy the part of you that thinks it can be destroyed? How does it feel to be left with nothing? Perhaps having some understanding perhaps having some understanding that there is a greater perspective that we can integrate. That we can be led by. How does that feel? Take a moment. And this doesn't mean that you won't do anything in the midst of these situations that come up in your life. And it doesn't perhaps mean that you will choose the right thing according to an ultimate standard to only make you feel like you are less than others. My dear beloveds, this is part of perpetual surrender, where we allow ourselves to merge into a walk of service that delivers people into the understanding that there is not only more to life, but there is more to their life than what they have ever known. I take my attention off these ants here. Especially how I'm going to drink water when I'm thirsty. Protein. What is that, riboflavin? Or is that magnesium? And maybe zinc. No, ants. Depending on the ant. No. The vertebrae. I don't even know if they have vertebrae. I think they do. Could supplement our kidneys. Go figure. I'm gonna want some water right now. How I'm gonna get it? It may get a little messy. That was on camera. Good. Boy, there are ants everywhere. Okay. Cool. There was a piece of bark, I think, in my water. That's why I spit out the water. We each have a specialty. We each have a unique individuality, a certain beautiful perception about looking at life, and it's all different. And each person that is created in the universe has this. And it's through this fusing of these keys, I would like to say, we can concoct an experience together that is beyond words. And I wouldn't say it takes two people to do this. And again, I think it does. I think we have the power to each create these experiences individually. But I sense it is through the amount of people with us that multiplies, by the number of people with us, multiplies our experience if we are both willing to complementary give of ourselves that unique perception that we all have. And that experience of joy, whatever we have, is multiplied. And so you can say on one level that a person can be fulfilled on their own, fulfilled in the aspect of their desires, their goals, their spiritual success, perhaps even ascension. But is there more fulfillment that can come through the work of others, that can assist in the process? You're damn right it can. And this is something that I wish for all of us to endeavor to create in this community and any other ones that you may wish to create or participate in. To try to bring this community and this sense of cooperation deeper on the virtues of this unique qualities and inside of us, that could perhaps it can expand itself even further by our just effects of seeing how it relates to others, and perhaps even the business place, in our relationships, and wherever we go. We can allow for a conversation or even a couple sentences to come about in a way where we can contact each other. We can connect a request to come together after the first time we've met and build on. And there's not a lot of people who are ready and willing for this, but there are definitely some. I am one of them. And I would be happy to invite you into bringing some of the deeper conversations of this school into what you know is possible for this school and perhaps other projects and movements. I was looking out. I don't know if you can see the bugs here. But I just had the strong sense of harmony. Seeing the bugs play around the auras and the life of the plants. Kind of in a silly way, just dancing and playing tag, I guess you can call it. These are gnats, I believe. I don't think they're fruit flies per se, but what's the difference, you know? Doesn't really matter. But it's just interesting to see how nature, impersonally, I guess you can say, works with each other. That natural, inherent consciousness in it to just be with life, dance around life. Symbolically, literally. It's a beautiful thing. Anyways, beloved friends, the time is high. And the time is high is something that I like to say when there's a lot of dynamics going on in the world, politically, economically, through the initiatives of human services. You can call it business, but it's really everywhere, especially in the family. And the makeup or the current consciousness in most of these affairs is trying to oppose one another, to be a certain way because one way has the absolute way. And that type of consciousness, even if someone does sees a higher way, they would know that by telling someone else that they have the absolute way will not guarantee or even allow the other person to to understand that in their journey, they can also grasp what they have grasped without that person saying it is an absolute. And that is to say, whether that even that idea of absolute is based on transcendence, that there's always more. But there are certain ways of explaining it that can never actually guarantee the experience, but behind the words, it may come from an individual who has really participated in what I'll say right now. You put me on the record as the absolute way. That is beyond words, beyond teachings. They could come with a teaching, but for each individual, that absolute way will come in a unique manner that gives them a perspective that there's always more to whatever they think. And this more to whatever they think, at whatever time or perception they currently have, it's okay. Because in balance, and in the process of integrating the initiations we are given each day by God, by Source, by the Creator of this universe, there will be certain times when we may want to take a step back and say, I've done a lot of work on trying to understand my worldview as always beyond itself. And in order to go further, I have to be willing to accept where I am now and who I am now and what I believe now as a part of just growing in life. That is not always about have to always have that intense push to be someone who you already are not now. By a way, it means that you're not already perfect the way you are now. In other words, meaning that you're lesser than. You're put on a scale, and by however you're judged, by some standard set up by someone who thinks they could possibly be better than someone else, you will fit their experience to perhaps be in a connective relationship. It is high time, beloveds. And this means that we do not have to save the world. It doesn't even mean we have to create these environments of schools to help one another. Because sometimes in the process of even creating something like this, the involvement of sophisticated intuition will require, what am I saying here? Do you know what I'm saying? Or what I'm about to say? Because I kind of just lost it. But anyways, what I was trying to say is sometimes for certain people, there isn't an outer awareness that is able to understand their intuitive abilities, which is a part of the surrender that I talked about earlier, about letting go of what you think and just allowing it to come through, or what you think the fear is, and just allowing the fear to destroy you so that you are reborn. You're crucified into the consciousness of Christ. And as I was going on to say, some of us, it may be necessary to find just balance with your friends, or perhaps you don't have many friends, and with yourself, and finding that pattern that does not have to deeply involve an intense requirement for you to make major changes on this earth. Yes, that would be nice for these intense changes to happen on earth, but right now, if you look at our history, it goes back a long time. And this will take generations upon generations. Hopefully, within a few decades, there will be some big changes. But in the long run, this will be centuries, beloved. All the things around us, the consciousness and the incrustations that most people have built into their four body systems, most likely will have to require severe destruction based on their continual patterns. And there's two ways of God giving individuals that experience of looking at what they are doing, what they are creating, or decreating, I should say. And that is either by illness, by schizophrenia, addictions, emotional victimhood, and or anger and rage, resentment. There are many different things we can talk about here, but God will either give you intense chaos on the inside, which most people are in right now. There are different degrees, and right now it's at it's at a pretty high level, because in most time and space, serving others is not usually in the category. And so, after a certain period of opportunity that the creator of this universe built in for those who do not wish to look at this inner chaos, and find a resolution quickly. Well, quickly is a term that can be, well, it is relative. But the other way is that instead of your internal world breaking down, your internal world will break down, and also your external world will start breaking down. And we've talked about this before. And the need of today is for some of us who are spiritually creative, balanced, and would call themselves warriors. You need to find that balance of accepting the law of free will, which is partly why we came here, where we had a misunderstanding that we have to save the people, we have to stop the suffering, or perhaps it wasn't even we have to, but oh God, look at these people, I want to help them, I'm going there. And so we came. But we didn't really study the history behind it. Some of us were told what was the history, some of us learned. There's a lot of us that came here on behalf of good intentions, but not the highest intentions. Whereby meaning, we did not understand the full circle, the full background, and frame of reference of free will, where centuries upon thousands and millions of years has there been a perpetual drive in the collective choices to not help others, not look at what's going on inside, no matter how Christ-like and how bold someone might be to say, look at what you're doing. The images you're projecting upon life is reflecting back upon you. You're destroying yourself, which will destroy the world, for the world is a reflection of yourself. People still won't listen, but there are still some today that will. And this is those individuals who are ready to have these conversations and perhaps commune in a deeper level than we've ever experienced in many lifetimes, most likely. Because in the past, a lot of this knowledge was not available. There was constant persecution for those who had this knowledge. And it's the exact knowledge that changes people's minds once they're able to see, or someone is able to give them, what is behind their desire, their lust, and their pledge to dominate and make people feel wrong, or live up to their ultimate righteousness of philosophy, religion, call it what you may. my beloved ones. Invoking the light will provide a counterbalance to the forces of this world, the prince of this world, the beast, and the fallen manipulation of this world that has been brought upon you for eons, most likely, if you were watching. But in invoking the light, calling forth the light, is only a stepping stone into delving into the night. And that means that there are things inside of us masqueraded as darkness, which is actually the full power of God behind it, that unless we go through it, we will never discover the immensity of who we have never even conceptualized we were before, thereby bringing us into a whole new dimension of potential that can serve others in a new way that is beyond, as I have said, and a way we have experienced. And through our ability to make direct choices based on our intuition and questioning of the effects of the choices that we make day-to-day life, we can grasp that higher view and make a reference point to why we are here in a deeper level, like in the Matrix, where you can see the spiritual matter, quantum particles behind all physical matter, knowing that there is only light, there is God, there is anything. There's only So, my beloveds, will you choose with me so long as we are here in the world to live for others? Will you choose with me to live in the other parts of ourselves that we have not realized is a reflection of other people, but they are inside of us, masquerading as darkness, fearing that we will be rejected and or this fear will overtake us, or we will die and then we won't live and there won't be anything after we live? Will you choose to go with me into ourselves that formulate as people outside of ourselves, to go deeper into them so we can understand this whole game of the oneness we all have together? It is a marvelous thing. It is a marvelous thing. And I thank you for those who are watching this to have come to the point where we can perhaps make these decisions that may be very well uncomfortable. For there will be much more comfortability in knowing that while we are here, that by going into these shadows, these dark, fallen, serpented, scary monsters that preach death, preach fear, preach separation, and control, and force, that by our ability to go into it, we will know nothing more of it as real. And so, as the agents fired the guns and tried to kill the one, it was like not having to do anything anymore, and he just went in them and became them as the outer form of the perception of evil was no more. This is the world we all can choose to live in, moment by moment, day by day, as a gradual process that may have evolutionary, that is evolutionary, but that may be revolutionary, according to our decision to want to be the fullness of who we are. May God bless you, and the courage for you to know yourself as God, allowing the ability of that which is more of who you are be discovered, and your recognition of all fear as light, oneness, truth,